Hello friends, I am glad you are here tonight. Before we drift into the calm rhythm of history, I want to ask you something simple, almost like a small ritual. Where are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? Maybe you are already lying in bed in a dark and quiet room. Maybe you are on a long night shift with headphones on, or maybe it is the middle of the afternoon and you simply want a soft background of words. It is always fascinating to imagine how one single story can travel across so many different places and hours, connecting us in a quiet moment of shared curiosity. Tonight, or whatever hour it is where you are, I will take you into the slow, unfolding rhythm of life in ancient Greece, not as a list of facts, but as if you could walk through the streets and fields yourself, noticing the details, the routines, the small gestures that made up a day thousands of years ago. Imagine that the first rays of light are stretching across the hills of Attica, the land where Athens rose to power, but it could just as easily be a fishing town by the Aegean coast or a farming village in the heart of the Peloponnesus. The morning is not rushed. There is no alarm clock. The crowing of roosters, the sound of animals stirring, the distant murmur of a marketplace being prepared. These are the signals that the day has begun. A household in Greece is alive with small movements. Someone lights the hearth fire if it has gone out during the night. Bread dough, prepared the evening before, might be set near the flames to bake. The smell of barley porridge or wheat bread begins to rise. Breakfast is simple, often nothing more than bread dipped in wine, sometimes with figs or olives. Yet even this modest start carried warmth, a sense of comfort, because bread and wine were the heart of Greek life. If you walk with me through the narrow streets, you can hear the voices of neighbors greeting each other. The houses are not grand from the outside. They are modest, built of mud brick or stone, with whitewashed walls, often plain to the street. But inside there is an open courtyard, shaded and private, where the family gathers. The courtyard might have a small altar to Hestia, goddess of the hearth, or to Hermes, protector of travelers and households. In this quiet space, children play while the adults prepare for the duties of the day. Men often leave early, heading toward the agora, the marketplace and civic center, where they will meet friends, discuss politics, or take part in trade. The agora is not only about buying and selling. It is the beating heart of Greek society, a place where philosophy is debated, news is shared, and decisions are influenced. Imagine walking through rows of stalls, baskets of olives, amphorae filled with oil, fish laid out on wooden boards, spices and herbs filling the air with fragrance. The hum of voices grows into a tapestry of sounds, sometimes interrupted by the sharp cry of a vendor calling out his goods. Meanwhile, women stay at home more often, especially in Athens, tending to the household. Their responsibilities are wide: spinning wool, weaving cloth, preparing meals, raising children, managing servants if the family is wealthy. A loom is one of the most common sights in a Greek household, and weaving is not only a task but a tradition passed down through generations. The patterns woven into a cloth tell their own story, blending utility with artistry. It is said that Penelope, the wife of Odysseus, kept her suitors at bay by weaving during the day and undoing her work at night. That story, told for centuries, was rooted in the real rhythm of Greek women's lives. Children, depending on their age and family status, might be running errands, helping with chores, or, if boys of citizen families, heading to school. Education in Greece is not uniform. In Athens, boys are taught letters, music, and physical training, aiming for a balance of mind and body. A boy sits with a wax tablet, carefully scratching letters with a stylus, learning the words of Homer, repeating verses that connect him with centuries of tradition. Music is part of this education too: the lyre, the flute, the rhythm of poetry. And of course, the palestra, the wrestling ground, where boys train their bodies, because to be Greek is to honor both intellect and strength. As the sun climbs higher, the heat grows more intense. Farmers are already out in the fields, tending to vines, olive groves, or grain. Their labor is the backbone of society, though often less celebrated in the grand tales of heroes and philosophers. Yet without their work, there would be no bread on the table, no oil for the lamps, no wine for the symposia. Life is physical, demanding, tied to the rhythm of the seasons and the land itself. When midday arrives, people rest. The heat can be oppressive and work slows down. A meal might consist of bread, cheese, olives, and fruit with diluted wine. Greeks never drank wine straight. It was always mixed with water, a mark of civilization in contrast to the so-called barbarian practice of drinking it undiluted. Even in something as simple as wine, they saw culture, balance, and moderation. And then, as the afternoon passes, other scenes unfold. The gymnasia, open-air training grounds, fill with men exercising, discussing philosophy, mingling physical activity with intellectual exchange. Socrates himself was known to walk barefoot in these places, questioning everyone he met, turning ordinary conversations into deep reflections about justice, virtue, and the meaning of life. It is a reminder that in Greece, even casual moments could become the seedbed of ideas that still shape our world. Now, I do not want to move too quickly through the day, because each layer, each moment of ancient Greek life holds its own texture. Tonight, we are only beginning. We have touched the early hours, the rising of households, the stirrings of the agora, the work of women and children, the efforts of farmers, the rhythms of rest. But there is much more. The evening meals, the symposia where men reclined and shared not only food but ideas, the festivals that brought entire cities into celebration, the theaters where thousands gathered to watch tragedies and comedies. We will wander into all of these, slowly, like a stroll through winding streets, noticing the details, listening to the voices, smelling the bread and the wine and the sea breeze. So stay with me, because the story of an ordinary day in ancient Greece is not only about chores or meals. It is a window into how a civilization breathed, how people lived, and how their world, though distant, still echoes into ours. As the shadows begin to shorten and the air grows warmer, the rhythm of life in ancient Greece continues to expand. The morning has already set its pace, yet the day is far from complete. Around the agora, voices are rising in intensity. Not everyone comes here merely to buy food or materials. Many arrive with the hope of encountering ideas, stories, or even disputes that bring life into sharper focus. Imagine a group of men standing beneath the colonnades, their tunics simple, their sandals dusty from the walk. They are not wealthy politicians, not yet philosophers either, but ordinary citizens who take pride in discussion. They argue about a recent decree, perhaps about whether a festival should be funded from the city's treasury, or whether a new alliance with another polis will bring prosperity or danger. Their words rise and fall like waves, persuasive and passionate. To be a Greek citizen is not to sit quietly. It is to speak, to listen, to test ideas against one another. Even in casual moments, politics is never far away. For the merchants, the agora is both an opportunity and a struggle. A fisherman with baskets of gleaming silver-scaled sardines calls out to passers-by, his voice almost musical as he praises the freshness of his catch. Nearby, a potter carefully arranges rows of clay vessels, amphorae, craters, kylixes, each one serving a distinct purpose in daily life, from storing oil to mixing wine. A woman, her head covered, lingers near the stall, examining the curve of a vessel, testing its strength with her hands. These goods are not mere objects. They are the tools of survival and the symbols of culture. At the edges of the marketplace, you might hear the sound of music drifting through. A young man plucks at the strings of a kithara, singing verses from Homer, earning a few coins from listeners. His voice carries the story of Achilles' rage or Odysseus' long voyage, tales known by nearly everyone, yet always new in their telling. In a world without books as we know them, these performances are memory itself, keeping the great epics alive in the hearts of the people. Away from the bustling square, life is quieter but no less full. In the workshops, craftsmen labor with patience. The clink of hammer on bronze echoes faintly as a smith shapes a blade, while in another corner of the city, a sculptor chisels marble into the outline of a figure that may one day adorn a temple. Marble dust floats in the air like fine powder, settling on the craftsman's arms as he works tirelessly. The Greeks are not only farmers and merchants, they are creators, shaping matter into forms that continue to inspire centuries later. Meanwhile, in the countryside just beyond the city walls, farmers guide oxen through the soil, their sweat mixing with the dust. Olive trees stretch in ordered rows, their twisted trunks telling stories of decades, even centuries. These trees are not simply plants, they are wealth itself. From their fruit comes oil, used not only for food but also for light, for ritual, for trade. A single amphora of fine oil might pay for a slave, or purchase the wool needed for an entire household's garments. The farmer's life is hard, but it is also deeply connected to the pulse of the land. Children are everywhere, their laughter breaking through the seriousness of adult labor. A boy chases a hoop through a narrow street, his sandals slapping against the ground. Another balances carefully with knuckle bones in hand, tossing and catching them with practiced skill. These games are not only for entertainment. They teach dexterity, quickness, focus. Girls, often within the household walls, mimic their mother's work, learning the rhythm of weaving, the patience of spinning. Yet they also invent their own amusements, songs, dances, whispered secrets that carry through the courtyard like little sparks of joy. By now, the sun is climbing to its peak, and the light is fierce. Many retreat indoors, seeking the coolness of shaded courtyards, where stone walls hold the night's chill. Meals are taken in quiet, bread dipped in oil, figs cut into halves, cheese shared between family members. Wine is poured into clay cups, always diluted, always controlled. In this midday pause, voices soften. The hum of the city seems to fall into a kind of drowsy balance. Even the animals, the donkeys tied in alleyways, the dogs sleeping at thresholds, seem to surrender to the stillness of the hour. But silence never lasts too long in Greece. Festivals punctuate the year, and even if today is not a festival, there is always talk of the next one. Perhaps it is the Dionysia, when the city will be filled with song and drama, or the Panathenea, when a grand procession will honor Athena herself. People speak with anticipation, remembering the contests, the sacrifices, the laughter. Festivals are not diversions. They are the very threads that weave the city together, reminding each person that they are part of something larger than themselves. In the gymnasia, the atmosphere is different. Here, bodies glisten with sweat as men practice wrestling, running, discus throwing. The smell of oil and exertion fills the air. Yet this is no mere athletic field. It is also a place of conversation, where older men guide younger ones, and where ideas slip easily into the spaces between physical training. One might pause after a sprint, sit in the shade, and begin a conversation about justice or courage or the gods. Philosophy is not confined to classrooms. It breathes in these open spaces, carried along by the rhythm of daily life. And always in the background, the sea is present. For many Greeks, especially those living near the coast, the sea is both friend and threat. Fishermen return with their catch, sails flutter in the breeze, and children watch the horizon for ships. The Aegean is not empty. It is a highway of connection, a pathway linking islands and cities, carrying goods, ideas, and sometimes enemies. To live in Greece is to live with the sea, to respect it, to fear it, and to depend upon it. As the afternoon unfolds, we begin to sense how layered this ordinary day is. It is not just about eating bread or working fields. It is about a constant weaving together of survival, beauty, politics, and imagination. In one corner of the city, a philosopher's words spark new thought. In another, a mother teaches her daughter to spin wool. On the fields, a farmer bends beneath the sun. On the waters, a boat sets sail toward another shore. As the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon, the heat of the day softens into a gentler warmth. The streets, once filled with the midday bustle, now carry a different rhythm, a more relaxed pace as people finish their labors and return home. The marketplace has quieted slightly, though a few vendors still call out, hoping to sell the last olives or figs before the evening. The smell of freshly baked bread lingers in the air, mingling with the earthy scent of sun-warmed stone and the occasional waft of salt from the distant sea. Families begin to prepare for the main meal of the day, which often takes place in the late afternoon or early evening. In wealthier households, the table is set carefully, with small dishes of olives, cheese, lentils, and barley porridge. Fresh fish, caught that morning, is sometimes grilled over coals, while small portions of honey or dates provide a sweet finish. Wine is poured generously into shallow cups, though always diluted with water, as moderation is seen not only as good sense but as a mark of refinement. In simpler homes, the meal is more modest, yet no less meaningful. A piece of bread, perhaps a little goat cheese, some fresh vegetables from the courtyard garden. Eating together is more than nourishment. It is connection, a reaffirmation of family bonds that structure daily life. As families eat, conversation drifts naturally from household matters to the wider world. A father may speak of news he heard at the agora, a neighbor's new olive grove, or an unusual sight along the coastline. Children, sitting quietly or playing near the hearth, listen carefully, absorbing the rhythm of speech, the inflection of stories, the way events unfold in narrative form. Even in ordinary conversation, there is an education, a passing on of knowledge and tradition that shapes the next generation without the need for formal lessons. After the meal, the streets begin to fill again, not with labor but with leisure. Young men walk toward the palestra or the gymnasium, eager to engage in exercise, wrestling matches, and running. Their movements are fluid, honed through hours of practice. But even here there is space for conversation, reflection, and the exchange of ideas. Older men recline under shaded colonnades, discussing philosophy, recounting tales of past battles or legendary heroes, or simply observing the world with quiet attentiveness. In Greece, the lines between work, play, and thought are porous. One activity naturally flows into another, and the mind is always engaged, whether through dialogue, observation, or storytelling. Women, meanwhile, continue their own routines, tending gardens, weaving at the loom, or preparing small offerings for household gods. Temples dedicated to Athena, Apollo, or Hestia are never far from the consciousness of daily life. Even children may assist in minor rituals, carrying a bit of incense or placing a small loaf of bread upon a shrine. Religion is woven seamlessly into the day, not as a spectacle to attend, but as a steady presence, a rhythm that marks the passage of hours and honors the continuity of existence. In wealthier households, the evening might culminate in a symposium, a gathering where men recline on couches, share wine, and engage in conversation that ranges from playful banter to deep philosophical debate. These gatherings are meticulously structured yet relaxed, blending enjoyment with reflection. Poets may recite verses, lyres may provide a gentle accompaniment, and everyone is encouraged to speak, to probe ideas, to consider moral questions. Here, as in the streets or the gymnasium, Dialogue is an art form, a sign of citizenship, and a way of participating in the life of the polis. Entertainment in Greece is varied and ever-present, not confined to theaters or festivals. Street performers may appear, demonstrating skill with the kithara or telling short tales of myth and legend. Children imitate their gestures and songs, and adults may pause to watch, smile, or offer a small coin. Even in quiet villages, the imagination is active, and stories circulate as freely as the wind through olive groves. Storytelling is not merely amusement. It is a vessel for memory, for values, for the shaping of a community's identity. As the sun dips lower, the light softens to a golden hue that sets the buildings aglow and casts long shadows across the streets. Fishermen pull their boats ashore, laying nets to dry, while farmers tend the last of the day's chores, gathering animals, checking olive trees, or storing tools for tomorrow. The rhythm of the day is winding down, yet there is still movement, still life, still sound. The faint chatter of neighbors, the distant bleating of goats, the lap of waves against a harbor wall. Evening in Greece is also a time of reflection and ritual. Families might gather for a small prayer at the hearth, giving thanks to Hestia, goddess of the home, or offering a silent thought to the gods they revere. Lamps are lit, made from clay and fueled with olive oil, casting a soft, flickering light across walls adorned with simple frescoes or pottery. Shadows dance gently, creating an atmosphere that encourages calm conversation, storytelling, and contemplation. The day slowly transitions from the active, bright hours to the quiet, introspective ones. In towns near the sea, the smell of salt and fish mingles with the cooling air, while inland, the scent of olive oil and baked bread lingers. Children begin to tire, curling up near their mothers or sisters, while men finish their walks, return from exercise, or complete the last discussions of the day. The polis itself seems to breathe differently now, the vibrant energy of daytime giving way to a more measured, tranquil rhythm. It is remarkable how ordinary life in Greece is layered with such richness. Work, leisure, ritual, and community are never isolated. They flow together like a single river, each current feeding the next, creating a sense of continuity and coherence that marks the passage of time. The same hands that sow the fields, shape the clay, or weave wool are also those that converse about virtue, enjoy poetry, and honor the gods. In this, the ordinary and the extraordinary exist side by side, inseparable from one another. Night slowly settles over the city, softening the edges of stone buildings and weaving shadows through narrow alleyways. The last rays of sunlight fade behind distant hills, leaving the sky tinged with pink, orange, and deepening violet. In this quiet hour, the city exhales, a moment of pause between the labor of the day and the calm of sleep. Yet even as darkness drapes itself over rooftops, life in ancient Greece does not vanish. It simply shifts into subtler patterns, revealing a different layer of existence. In wealthier homes, lamps are lit, the soft flicker of olive oil flames illuminating the faces of those who gather indoors. A family might share a modest supper, simpler than the late afternoon meal, yet rich in ritual and comfort. A father pours diluted wine into small cups, raising a silent toast to the hearth goddess Hestia, whose presence binds the household together. The smell of bread, herbs, and a slow-cooked stew fills the room, mingling with the quiet murmurs of conversation. Children listen intently, absorbing tales of the day's events, learning the stories of gods and heroes as naturally as they absorb the rhythm of speech. Evening conversations are often slower, deliberate. The same hands that labored in the fields or markets now gesture gently over a table, pointing to a story, emphasizing a lesson, or recalling a detail of the polis that shapes the family's world. It is a time for reflection, for passing on knowledge, and for linking the ordinary with the divine. Mothers remind children of simple truths: respect for the gods, care for the household, attention to the lessons embedded in both work and play. In these small moments, the threads of culture are woven into the next generation, as surely as a weaver shapes wool into cloth. Outside, the streets echo faintly with footsteps. Some men return from the gymnasium or a late stroll, muscles still warm from exercise, their minds wandering from athletic achievements to philosophical questions. A few travelers move along the paths between towns, guided by the stars, carrying news or goods from distant shores. Even in darkness, the city is alive with quiet purpose. A dog pads along a wall, a cat slips between shadows, the sound of a distant or strokes the water in a small harbor. Every element is connected, every movement part of the unbroken rhythm of life. In larger cities like Athens, theaters are often still active, even if performances are scheduled for special occasions. People gather to witness tragedy or comedy, stories drawn from myth and legend, reflecting human folly and virtue, the interplay of fate and free will. The amphitheater seats rise steeply, filled with spectators who lean forward, eyes fixed on actors in masks, voices projecting through stone and night air. A tragedy might explore the fall of a hero, while a comedy delights in absurdity, poking gentle fun at politicians or neighbors. In both cases, the audience is part of a collective understanding, absorbing lessons wrapped in entertainment, thinking without even realizing it, feeling deeply without interruption. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, the rhythm of social gatherings continues in a different form. The symposium, that iconic evening assembly of men reclining on couches, extends into night. Wine flows, conversation meanders from mundane topics to philosophy, poetry, and politics. A lyre might accompany a softly spoken verse, and laughter punctuates thoughtful pauses. Each participant has a voice, yet all voices are tempered by respect and attentiveness. It is both an exercise in pleasure and an education in life's finer skills, the cultivation of reason alongside indulgence. The sounds of the night are subtle but constant. From a distant hill, the occasional call of an owl or the braying of a donkey drifts into the city. Within courtyards, women finish their weaving or household tasks, moving carefully to avoid disturbing those who are resting. Children begin to succumb to sleep, lulled by the familiar warmth of the hearth, the gentle murmur of conversation, or the cadence of storytelling that winds down into quiet. The scent of evening meals lingers, comforting and familiar, entwined with the faint aroma of lamp oil and the cool touch of the night air. In rural areas, the contrast is sharper. Farmers return from distant fields, their labor complete, guiding oxen and sheep toward enclosures. Olive groves and vineyards rest in the cool shadows, the leaves whispering in the breeze. Fires in homes cast elongated shapes across walls, creating a private theater of shadow and light. Dogs settle by thresholds, goats nibble cautiously in enclosures, and the quiet hum of insects begins, blending with the faint lapping of nearby streams. The night, though calm, is alive in subtle ways, a constant reminder of the interconnectedness of human, animal, and natural rhythms. Even in darkness, the gods are never far from thought. A small offering might be placed at the threshold to ensure protection, or a whispered prayer uttered as one drifts towards sleep. Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Hestia, all are invoked in small gestures, their presence a silent companion to everyday life. Belief is practical as well as spiritual. It guides behavior, teaches caution and generosity, and offers explanation for events that might otherwise remain inexplicable. In this way, the divine and the mundane are inseparable, coexisting in an unbroken stream of experience. The night deepens, and the city, the village, the countryside all begin to slow. Conversations taper off. Laughter becomes softer, footsteps more tentative. Even the wind seems to hold its breath as if aware that the hours ahead are for rest, for renewal. Yet beneath the quiet surface, life remains, preparing for the dawn to come. The farmers' fields will need attention again. The marketplaces will fill with voices. The gymnasia will echo with the sounds of training. And so, in the calm of night, there is anticipation, a subtle pulse that promises continuity. In this gentle unfolding of ordinary Greek life, we see that nothing is truly isolated. The labor of the day feeds the evening. The education of children shapes their future. The worship of gods integrates seamlessly with work and leisure. Every moment is part of a continuous stream, a current that flows through centuries, carrying the texture of human experience in its unbroken course. Life is simple yet layered, ordinary yet profoundly connected. And in this connection, the essence of Greece endures, even as the stars shine silently above, watching over the quiet, sleeping city. As the deepest hours of night stretch across the land, the world of ancient Greece enters a subtle, reflective quiet, yet life never truly pauses. Within the city walls, most streets are empty now, cobblestones cool beneath the faint glow of oil lamps, and the occasional distant murmur reminds one that some tasks continue even as sleep gathers its audience. A lone watchman might patrol, footsteps muffled by time-worn paths, while a few late travelers make their way home from distant villages, guided by stars that gleam with ancient constellations, stories of gods and heroes embedded in their patterns. Inside the homes that still hold wakefulness, quiet activities persist. A mother finishes threading the loom, her fingers nimble even in the dim light, the shuttle moving rhythmically through warp threads, producing a patterned cloth that will clothe her children or be offered as a gift to kin. The faint clatter of the shuttle, almost hypnotic, mixes with whispered words of encouragement or small prayers to Hestia, the goddess whose hearth anchors the family in safety. Children, lulled by these gentle sounds, drift closer to sleep, curling near parents or siblings, their small breaths synchronizing with the slow, steady rhythm of the household. In wealthier homes, the symposium of the earlier evening has quieted, leaving participants reclining in silence, contemplative or drowsy from conversation and wine. Even the most mundane discussions, when observed in the candlelight, take on a certain rhythm and poetry. Philosophical thoughts, half-formed arguments, recollections of heroic deeds or divine interventions, all linger in the soft air, mingling with the aroma of wine and bread. A discussion about justice might shift effortlessly into storytelling, recalling Odysseus' cunning or the wisdom of Solon, demonstrating how intertwined knowledge, pleasure, and reflection are in Greek life. Outside, the city holds its own nocturnal energy. Dogs slumber in alleys, while cats move silently along rooftops, their soft padding unseen yet perceptible, a reminder that life continues beyond human observation. The sea, if nearby, laps gently at harbor walls, a slow, endless rhythm that has not changed for centuries, connecting the city to distant lands and ideas. Ships may rock quietly, their cargoes of grain, olive oil, or amphorae of wine promising future trade, future conversations in the agora, future routines that will be woven into the tapestry of daily life. Even in rural areas, night carries a pulse. Farmers may still rise briefly to check on animals, ensuring that goats, sheep, and oxen are secure, that gates are closed, and that no nocturnal predator has wandered too close. Olive trees and vineyards rest beneath the moon, leaves shimmering silver in the soft light, while the faint chirping of insects and the rustle of small creatures in underbrush form a natural lullaby. The rhythm of these nocturnal tasks is subtle, almost invisible, yet essential, a quiet reminder of responsibility and care that underpins the simplicity of Greek life. Sleep, when it arrives, is not merely physical rest but a continuation of reflection. In dreams, children might replay lessons learned during the day, games played in courtyards, or verses of poetry recited by teachers. Adults may consider the outcome of market negotiations, the success of their fields, or philosophical ideas pondered earlier in the day. The line between waking and sleeping thought is porous. The mind continues its work, assembling experiences, emotions, and knowledge into the quiet architecture of understanding that will influence tomorrow. Nighttime also brings a closer awareness of the gods. Small rituals, though simple, remind the Greeks that their world is shaped not only by human effort but by divine influence. A grain of salt thrown into the fire, a whisper to Athena or Apollo, a brief acknowledgement of Hermes' guidance. All are subtle acts, quiet bridges between the mortal and immortal. Even in sleep, these acts leave their imprint on thought and perception, a continuous thread linking past, present, and future. The hours grow long, and the world becomes almost entirely still, yet a richness remains in this stillness. The texture of life in Greece is found not only in visible action but in quiet interludes. The gentle movement of a cat across a rooftop, the rustle of olive leaves in a soft breeze, the distant echo of waves or a watchman's call. Each sound, each motion integrates into a broader sense of continuity, connecting the individual to community, the ordinary to the divine, the present to the past. Even as night deepens further, there is a rhythm of preparation for tomorrow. A farmer may rise before the first light to inspect tools. A fisherman may check nets. A teacher may consider lessons for young pupils. And a family may ensure the household is ready for the tasks and routines that will follow. Life, in its ordinary unfolding, never truly stops. It merely shifts gears, moving from activity to reflection, from work to rest, from conversation to quiet observation. And in this gentle unfolding of ordinary existence, one begins to understand the fabric of ancient Greece. It is not composed solely of grand myths, heroic battles, or public spectacles, though these are woven in. It is the ordinary moments, the rhythms of work and leisure, the integration of family, community, and worship that define the experience of being alive. Each day is a mosaic of activity and reflection, of labor and celebration, of learning and storytelling, and each night is the quiet counterpoint, a slow, restorative movement that prepares all for the cycle to begin anew. So, as the stars grow brighter, and the moon arcs high above the rooftops, the city, village, and countryside alike breathe in unison. Life is continuous, layered, and remarkably interconnected. The ordinary is extraordinary in its completeness, and in this completeness, the essence of Greece endures, a living thread reaching across centuries, linking those who walk and speak and work with those who, like us, listen quietly in the dark, imagining the gentle cadence of another time. Before the first light of dawn breaks, the world of ancient Greece holds a delicate, expectant stillness. In some households, the night lingers like a soft fabric, wrapped around sleeping children and quietly breathing adults, while in others, early risers stir, guided by necessity and habit rather than alarm or urgency. The faint hum of distant rivers or the gentle lapping of waves against harbor walls marks the passage of time, a reminder that the day begins slowly, unhurried, and full of subtle rhythms. Farmers are often among the first to wake. In the cool, pre-dawn hours, they move carefully through fields, feeling the dew beneath their sandals, inspecting olive trees and grapevines, ensuring that nothing has been disturbed during the night. Oxen, tethered to plows or awaiting the morning's work, shuffle quietly, their breath steaming faintly in the cool air. These early moments are both practical and meditative, The world is still, and yet full of life. Birds call faintly from nearby trees, goats shift in enclosures, and the wind stirs the leaves with gentle insistence. Each sound is familiar, grounding the farmers in the continuity of their labor, connecting them to the land that sustains them. In the city, households begin to awaken more gradually. Women stir, retrieving water from clay jars, tending fires that were left smoldering overnight, and preparing simple breakfasts of bread, olives, and occasionally cheese. Children follow the familiar patterns of their environment, small hands helping to carry dishes, watching their parents, or simply absorbing the morning's quiet lessons. In homes near the agora, the faint clamor of early merchants and vendors can already be heard as stalls are set, baskets of figs and olives arranged neatly, clay vessels stacked in careful order. The city itself seems to stretch, shaking off the sleep of night, preparing to breathe fully in sunlight. The smell of baking bread and roasting grains begins to mingle with the earthy scent of stone streets and the faint fragrance of herbs from courtyard gardens. This aroma moves slowly through the alleys, through open doorways, creating a subtle rhythm that links kitchen, street, and marketplace. Even in silence, there is a sense of purpose. Preparations for the day, whether for trade, education, or worship, unfold like invisible choreography, practiced through repetition and experience, unnoticed yet indispensable. Children awaken fully, some already eager to repeat yesterday's games, others quietly helping with chores or fetching water. Boys may prepare for lessons in letters and music, practicing the lyre softly in the corner, the sound tentative, careful, yet full of potential. Girls may join mothers in weaving, spinning wool, or tending gardens, moving with quiet attentiveness, their motions forming patterns as graceful and deliberate as the designs on a loom. Every act, however ordinary, carries layers of skill, tradition, and care. The city streets gradually fill with citizens moving toward the agora, not in a rush, but with measured steps. Conversations begin to rise, low at first, as friends greet one another and neighbors exchange news. Traders call out their goods with gentle insistence, offering olives, cheese, fish, or woven goods. The marketplace is alive but not chaotic. It moves like a river with steady currents, each participant aware of the rhythms of those around them. This is not merely commerce, but a social ritual, a space where ideas, alliances, and relationships flow as naturally as the goods themselves. In temples and shrines, early rituals mark the day's beginning. Small offerings of bread, oil, or flowers are placed at altars to Athena, Apollo, or Hestia, invoking protection, gratitude, or guidance. Priests may lead short prayers or perform minor duties, their movements precise and deliberate, blending tradition with the needs of the present. Even the simplest acknowledgement of the divine carries weight, reinforcing the connection between daily life and spiritual presence, and reminding every observer that the gods are intertwined with the ordinary as much as with the extraordinary. By mid-morning, life expands further into layered activity. Citizens who are not occupied with trade or education may stroll through shaded colonnades, exchanging news, opinions, or philosophical reflections. Athletes move toward the gymnasium or palestra, practicing wrestling, running, or discus throwing. Their motions a blend of physical exertion and concentration, echoing a cultural ideal of balance between body and mind. Conversations interweave with movement, laughter punctuates instruction, and the ordinary acts of life are imbued with layers of meaning that stretch beyond the immediate moment. In villages and rural areas, a similar harmony unfolds. Families tend fields, guide animals, and maintain tools, all in patterns shaped by centuries of experience. Olive groves shimmer in sunlight, grapevines climb trellises, and simple homes are alive with movement. Sweeping, cooking, repairing. Children play nearby, inventing games that reflect their environment, their imagination flowing seamlessly into the physical world. These moments, though humble, are foundational, creating a rhythm that persists day after day, season after season. By the time the sun climbs higher, the full energy of the day emerges. Markets are active, fields demand attention, workshops hum with artisans' labor, and education fills courtyards and homes. The ordinary is extraordinary, made so not by singular events but by continuous patterns of care, learning, creation, and observation. Life flows as a single, unbroken current, connecting human effort, divine presence, and the natural world in ways that are often subtle yet remarkably complete. In witnessing this early morning, we understand that Greek life is not a series of disjointed events, but a living, breathing mosaic, each element interdependent, each moment layered with meaning. From the quietest hearth to the bustling agora, from the softest whispered prayer to the measured exertion of athletes, the day unfolds with deliberate rhythm, teaching, nourishing, and sustaining the people who inhabit it. And as we follow this unfolding, we begin to see the essence of a civilization not in its battles or monuments, but in the ongoing pulse of ordinary life, the quiet beauty of daily existence, and the interconnectedness that shapes every moment, every action, and every thought. As the morning moves fully into the heat of the day, the city hums with a steady, intricate rhythm, a pulse that connects each inhabitant in ways both visible and unseen. The agora is alive with movement. Merchants call out the freshness of their olives, figs, and cheeses, and the occasional basket of dried fish. Potters arrange rows of amphorae and craters with careful hands, each vessel promising utility and beauty, while children dart between stalls, laughing and testing their dexterity, their small fingers brushing the textured surfaces of clay and woven goods. The sounds of haggling and conversation blend seamlessly with the occasional strum of a kithara, played by a wandering musician, the notes mingling with the scent of warm bread and sun-baked stone. At the same time, workshops echo with concentrated labor. A bronze smith hammers gently yet insistently, the metallic rhythm punctuating the softer murmur of apprentices learning their craft. Each spark that leaps from the forge is a testament to skill refined over years, to patience and care, to a world in which even ordinary objects carry pride and meaning. Nearby, sculptors carve marble into lifelike figures, chiseling slowly, almost meditatively, dust drifting through the air like tiny motes of sunlight. The hands of these artisans are instruments of continuity, linking the present to generations past and future, shaping forms that will endure long after the sound of their labor has faded. Meanwhile, in homes and courtyards, the flow of daily life continues with quiet precision. Mothers and daughters weave, spin, and prepare meals, their actions forming patterns as deliberate and intricate as those of the potters or sculptors outside. The aroma of cooked lentils, roasted figs, and bread warm from the oven fills the air, mingling with olive oil, herbs, and the faint tang of fresh goat cheese. Conversations occur simultaneously, a mother instructing her daughter on technique, a child recounting a game from the courtyard, and neighbors exchanging news or small stories, each thread of dialogue weaving seamlessly into the overall texture of life. At midday, the city pauses briefly for sustenance. Families gather to share bread, cheese, olives, and occasionally small portions of fish or legumes, accompanied by diluted wine in shallow cups. Meals are neither hurried nor extravagant. They are moments of connection and reflection. A father recounts news from the agora, perhaps an unusual event at a distant polis, or a small political debate overheard in the marketplace. Children listen attentively, their minds absorbing lessons in human behavior, social structure, and the subtleties of language. Even a simple meal carries layers of education, ritual, and connection, reinforcing the intertwined nature of ordinary existence. After this brief interlude, activity resumes with renewed energy. Citizens return to their workshops, streets, and fields, while the gymnasia once again fill with the sound of exertion. The rhythmic impact of feet on sand, the grunt of wrestlers locked in practice, the occasional cheer or shout from instructors guiding younger men in the art of physical discipline. These spaces are more than athletic training. They are arenas of observation, discussion, and education, where the cultivation of body, mind, and spirit occurs simultaneously. Laughter and debate intermingle with exertion, creating an environment that nurtures both strength and intellect. The marketplace, too, continues to thrive, though the heat of the day shifts the patterns of movement. Shoppers linger in shaded colonnades, examining goods carefully, testing the weight of amphory or the texture of woven fabrics. The occasional breeze carries the mingled scents of olive oil, bread, and herbs, while conversations ripple through the air, gossip, advice, and stories passing freely among citizens. A fisherman sells his catch, a potter demonstrates the durability of a new design, and an apprentice hurries to deliver a customer's purchase. All layers of activity forming a seamless, living tapestry. In the countryside, farmers work under the strengthening sun, guiding oxen through plowed fields, tending to vineyards, or inspecting olive trees. Their labor is methodical, deliberate, yet intertwined with awareness of natural rhythms. The changing light, the temperature of the air, the behavior of animals, and the growth of plants. Children assist when possible, learning the intricate balance between effort, observation, and patience. Even the smallest tasks, tying a vine, collecting olives, or checking water levels, carry meaning, forming part of a continuum of care and understanding that sustains life across generations. Festivals, though not daily, are always on the horizon, and conversations throughout the city naturally drift to anticipation. Tales of processions, sacrifices, athletic contests, and theatrical performances spread from home to home, generating excitement and reflection alike. Even those engaged in ordinary labor carry these events in thought, linking their immediate tasks to the broader cultural rhythm of polis life. The expectation of celebration transforms the mundane into part of a larger narrative, a reminder that every act is connected to shared history, belief, and joy. By afternoon, the city's energy is a complex blend of effort, observation, and subtle reflection. Individuals navigate multiple roles at once. Merchants attending customers while listening to debates, artisans crafting with skill while exchanging gossip or philosophy, parents teaching children while tending to practical matters. Life flows in a continuous current, each person's actions influencing and being influenced by those around them, creating an intricate network of interdependence that defines Greek civilization. And through it all, the presence of the gods, Athena, Apollo, Hestia, and others, remains quietly acknowledged, guiding action, shaping thought, and providing both explanation and comfort. Even ordinary labor and play, meals and conversation, are imbued with subtle divine significance, reminding every observer that life is layered, meaningful, and interconnected in ways both visible and unseen. As the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon once again, the rhythms of the day continue to unfold, preparing the city and countryside for the transition to evening, for rest, reflection, and renewal, yet always leaving space for the ordinary to remain extraordinary in its continuity, its care, and its quiet beauty. As the sun tilts toward the west, the heat of the day begins to soften, and the city of Greece transforms once again, shifting from the labor of midday to the subtler rhythms of late afternoon. Streets that were filled with merchants, buyers, and artisans now carry a more relaxed pace. Some stalls remain busy, yet others are closing, their wares carefully packed away until the next morning. The golden light of the descending sun casts long shadows across stone pavements, glinting off clay amphory and polished bronze, painting the city in warm hues that make even the most ordinary corners seem imbued with quiet grandeur. In homes across the city, the afternoon meal, often lighter than the midday repast, is prepared with care. Bread, olives, figs, and cheese are arranged alongside small portions of vegetables or freshly caught fish, occasionally complemented by sweet honey or dates. Wine, diluted with water, is poured into shallow cups, and conversation flows naturally, drifting from daily chores to stories of gods, heroes, or past events within the city. Even these seemingly simple meals carry subtle ritual. A silent nod to Hestia at the hearth, a whispered hope for health and prosperity, or a brief reflection on the day's successes and minor frustrations. Children, released from the morning's structured tasks or lessons, often take to the streets, courtyards, and nearby open spaces to play. Their games are simple yet rich, blending imagination, physical skill, and social learning. Boys practice mock contests of agility and wrestling, echoing the training they will pursue more formally in the gymnasium, while girls invent intricate games that mirror domestic life, weaving together storytelling, movement, and subtle negotiation. Laughter and shouts punctuate the air, mingling with the distant sounds of a merchant calling his remaining wares, or the soft strum of a kithara from a nearby musician. Even play is a form of learning, a rehearsal for adulthood, and a vital expression of joy within daily life. The temples and shrines, always quietly present, are increasingly visited in the late afternoon. Individuals and families offer small tokens, bread, or oil to Athena, Apollo, or Artemis, acknowledging protection, wisdom, or guidance. Some bring larger offerings when they can, particularly if an important event or festival approaches, while others simply pause for a moment of reflection, a silent act that threads the divine into every action. Priests may walk among the faithful, offering guidance, performing minor rites, or recounting stories of heroes and gods, ensuring that religious life remains intertwined with everyday existence. Meanwhile, artisans and laborers continue their work, though the pace shifts subtly with the sun. Potters inspect their drying amphory, ensuring they are properly shaped and fired, while sculptors put finishing touches on statues whose forms have been honed over weeks or months. Bronze workers and smiths test the glow of metal, listening to the faint rhythm of hammer against anvil. Every action is deliberate, attentive, a testament to skill, patience, and the belief that ordinary objects can carry both utility and beauty. The city hums with this quiet productivity, the energy of human effort measured and meaningful. Late afternoon is also a time for social engagement beyond the household. Citizens meet in shaded colonnades, discussing news, philosophy, or city affairs. Observers watch the movements of athletes in the palestra, offer commentary on theatrical performances, or debate the outcomes of local disputes. Even casual conversation carries weight, as citizens learn to observe subtleties in speech and behavior, training themselves in rhetoric, judgment, and awareness. It is through these interactions that the ordinary flow of life reinforces civic engagement, moral reflection, and the unspoken codes of community. The rhythm of daily life intertwines seamlessly with festivals, processions, or public events that may be scheduled. Even a small religious procession passing through the city streets captures attention, children following behind in awe, adults nodding respectfully, and the city itself seeming to pause in recognition of its own cultural heartbeat. These public celebrations do not disrupt the ordinary. Instead, they enhance it, providing shared experiences, communal identity, and a reminder that life is both personal and collective, mundane and sacred. By the time shadows lengthen further, families begin subtle preparations for the evening. Fires are tended, the scent of cooking spreads, and homes become centers of reflection, instruction, and quiet companionship. Women finish weaving, spinning, or cleaning, while men return from walks, exercise, or observation of city affairs. Conversations continue, gentle in tone, covering the day's events, small gossip, philosophical musings, and plans for the near future. Each household, though separate, participates in the larger rhythm of urban life, a living network of activity and thought. Outside, the environment itself contributes to the sense of calm and connection. Birds return to their nests, goats settle in enclosures, and the wind stirs olive leaves and grasses, carrying scents and sounds across the city and countryside. Even the distant lap of waves against harbor walls seems to synchronize with human activity, creating a background hum that unites work, leisure, and reflection into a continuous, coherent pattern. In these late afternoon hours, the ordinary achieves a quiet grandeur. The patterns of life, labor, play, conversation, ritual, flow together seamlessly, each moment feeding into the next, each interaction layered with meaning. The sun's descent signals transitions, yet not an ending, only a shift in rhythm. The city, the countryside, and the human experience are unified in this ongoing flow, teaching, nourishing, and connecting all who inhabit it. Even as the first hints of evening light fade into twilight, one begins to perceive the full tapestry of Greek life. Ordinary moments brimming with ritual, learning, reflection, and care. Each act, however simple, is interwoven with the world around it, forming a continuous, unbroken narrative in which labor, leisure, and devotion coexist in a natural, elegant balance, preparing every inhabitant for the evening, the night, and the promise of another day. As twilight deepens, the city and countryside alike enter a softer, more reflective rhythm, the bright energy of midday transforming into gentle activity, subtle movements, and quiet interaction. Streets, once crowded with vendors and shoppers, now hold a more leisurely pace, the last few merchants calling softly for attention as they pack wares and sweep cobblestones clean. The long shadows of buildings stretch across the ground, converging in patterns that shift with the fading sun, painting ordinary spaces with a sense of mystery and calm that draws the attention of those who notice it. Families gather once more in their homes, preparing for the evening meal, which, though often lighter than the noon meal, carries with it warmth, ritual, and reflection. Bread is broken, olives passed, cheese offered in small slices, and the occasional fish or vegetable dish completes the modest yet nourishing spread. Wine, diluted with water, is poured carefully into shallow cups, and conversation flows naturally, a gentle current weaving stories, questions, and observations together. Children listen and participate, absorbing subtle lessons of language, manners, and understanding, while parents reflect on the day's events and minor accomplishments. Even ordinary meals, taken slowly and attentively, reinforce connection, education, and social cohesion. Outside, the softer light calls the children to last bursts of play. Boys engage in small contests of skill and agility, racing through courtyards or tossing stones in careful arcs, while girls continue games that mirror domestic patterns, developing coordination, creativity, and social negotiation. Laughter drifts through alleyways and across open spaces, blending with the soft calls of animals settling for the night. Dogs curl into quiet corners, cats slip silently along walls and rooftops, and the subtle hum of insects begins to fill the air. The city itself seems to exhale, transitioning from movement to reflection, from the energy of action to the calm of observation. In wealthier homes or public spaces, late afternoon and early evening are often times for social gatherings, quiet conversation, and intellectual engagement. Citizens stroll through colonnades, shaded by stone or vine, discussing politics, philosophy, or poetry. Observers note the training of young athletes or the work of craftsmen, offering commentary, questions, or debate. Each interaction, though seemingly casual, carries layers of civic education, ethical reflection, and rhetorical practice, forming a subtle, ongoing curriculum in observation, participation, and understanding. Meanwhile, the city's temples and shrines continue to receive visitors, though in smaller numbers than earlier in the day. Devotees offer small gifts, perform minor rites, and whisper prayers to gods who watch over daily life. Athena, Apollo, Hestia, Artemis. Each receives attention in quiet acknowledgement of protection, guidance, and fortune. Even simple gestures, like placing a small portion of bread on an altar or whispering a hope for health and safety, carry profound significance in daily life. The divine presence is intertwined seamlessly with the ordinary, shaping both action and reflection, and reminding citizens that the world is alive with layers of influence beyond immediate perception. Artisans and laborers continue their work, though the pace is tempered by waning light and softened energy. Potters inspect recently fired amphorae, testing for cracks or imperfections, while sculptors smooth the final surfaces of statues, dust motes dancing in the amber glow of the setting sun. Bronze smiths strike metal gently but deliberately, listening for the resonance that signals readiness. Even seemingly small acts of craft and labor are deliberate, focused, and meaningful, blending practicality, aesthetics, and continuity into every motion. Neighborhood interactions take on a quieter, more reflective character. Friends and neighbors gather in small groups, sharing news, anecdotes, or reflections on the day's events. Conversations meander like streams, touching lightly on topics ranging from family matters to local gossip, from philosophical speculation to the planning of future activities or festivals. Even ordinary speech carries nuance and learning, teaching subtle social skills, judgment, and attentiveness, while forming an invisible web of connection that strengthens the community. As the sun finally dips below the horizon, the city and countryside alike are bathed in the soft glow of twilight, a period of transition that calls attention to the interconnectedness of all things. Children return home, tired but satisfied, animals settle in enclosures, and households shift into quiet routines of care, observation, and preparation. Fires are tended, lamps are lit, and the scent of evening meals lingers faintly, mingling with the cool air and the faint fragrance of herbs and olive trees. Every small detail, from the placement of a cooking vessel to the careful arrangement of woven cloth, contributes to the rhythm of ordinary life, uniting function with beauty, necessity with comfort. Evening is a time for reflection, storytelling, and gentle entertainment. Families may recount events of the day, narrate tales of heroes and gods, or quietly observe the effects of the setting sun on city and landscape. The cadence of voices is soft, deliberate, and continuous, forming a lullaby of communal experience that blends observation, education, and reflection. The ordinary is suffused with richness. The mundane becomes meaningful, and every action, however small, is part of a continuous, interwoven narrative. Across the broader landscape, the countryside mirrors this rhythm. Farmers conclude their work, checking animals and preparing tools for the next day. Children and young adults assist or play. Winds stir the leaves of olive trees and grapevines, and streams and rivers reflect the fading light with calm, gentle clarity. The interplay of human activity, natural presence, and divine acknowledgement forms an ongoing pattern, subtle yet complete, a living framework that defines existence in this ancient world. In these twilight hours, one begins to perceive the essence of Greek life. Ordinary moments interlaced with ritual, learning, and care. Labor, leisure, and reflection flowing seamlessly, and the quiet threads of human, animal, and divine presence forming a continuous, unbroken current. The city, the village, and the natural world are unified in this rhythm, each action, observation, and interaction contributing to a coherent tapestry of life that stretches across hours, days, and generations, preparing every inhabitant for the evening, night, and the promise of a new day. As night settles fully over the city and countryside, a soft hush descends, yet life does not pause. It simply changes rhythm, moving from the outward energy of daytime activity to the inward reflection of evening and early night. Lamps are lit in homes, casting flickering shadows across walls and courtyards, revealing textures of stone and wood, the careful handiwork of artisans, and the subtle patterns of domestic objects arranged with intent and care. The glow illuminates faces engaged in quiet conversation, storytelling, or reflection, creating an intimacy that daytime bustle rarely allows. Families gather around hearths, where small fires crackle softly, providing warmth and a focus for conversation. Children sit attentively, wide-eyed, listening as parents or elders recount stories of gods, heroes, and past events in the city or distant lands. Tales of Athena's wisdom, Apollo's music, or the cunning of Odysseus mingle with small, humorous anecdotes from the neighborhood, lessons in courage, skill, and morality woven naturally into the fabric of storytelling. Even in these gentle hours, education continues, though it is subtle, absorbed through listening, observation, and reflection rather than formal instruction. In homes where music is practiced, the lyre or kithara fills the air with soft, deliberate notes. Young learners, guided by patient tutors, experiment with harmonies, creating delicate melodies that drift through open windows, mingling with the scent of evening meals or the faint fragrance of herbs in courtyards. The music is quiet, reflective, almost meditative, forming a background for conversation and contemplation, its subtle patterns mirroring the rhythms of life itself. Outside, the streets hold a different sort of life. Neighbors linger in small groups, exchanging news, advice, or simple stories, their voices low and measured. Dogs and cats move quietly along walls and alleys, while goats settle into pens, their faint bleating marking the last minor stirrings of activity. The air carries scents of roasting bread, herbs, and the distant tang of fish, creating a sensory tapestry that blends domesticity with nature, human effort with the natural environment. Even ordinary smells and sounds contribute to the rhythm of life, grounding inhabitants in their surroundings and in each other. Temples and shrines, though mostly quiet at this hour, still receive occasional visitors. Small offerings of bread, oil, or flowers are placed with care, prayers whispered softly in acknowledgement of divine presence. These acts, though brief, carry profound significance, reminding citizens that the gods are intimately intertwined with everyday existence, present in both the grand and the mundane, attentive to the care, reflection, and small joys of human life. Evening meals, often simple, offer both nourishment and opportunity for reflection. Bread, cheese, olives, and the occasional fish or vegetable dish are consumed deliberately, accompanied by diluted wine and conversation. Each participant, whether adult or child, engages with subtle awareness, recounting the day's events, sharing observations, and sometimes debating matters of civic or personal importance. Meals are more than sustenance. They are a forum for reflection, learning, and connection, moments in which family, community, and even divine acknowledgement converge. Neighborhoods take on a quiet rhythm unique to this hour. Citizens return from walks, exercise, or observation of the city, exchanging parting words with acquaintances or offering guidance to children. courtyards, though less crowded, retain the echo of earlier activity. Laughter, footsteps, and the gentle movement of daily life lingering in memory and observation. This is a time when subtlety prevails. Gestures, glances, and speech carry nuanced meaning, reinforcing social bonds, shared understanding, and the unspoken rules that govern human interaction. Across the broader landscape, the countryside mirrors this rhythm. Farmers and shepherds conclude evening tasks, checking on animals, inspecting tools, and preparing for the early hours of tomorrow. Olive trees and vineyards rest under the soft glow of the moon, their leaves shimmering faintly in the light, while rivers and streams reflect the muted sky with calm, reflective clarity. The subtle hum of nature, crickets, distant birds, and the rustle of nocturnal creatures forms a natural accompaniment to human activity, linking the ordinary rhythms of life with the enduring pulse of the environment. As night deepens, households gradually move toward rest, but not before small rituals, reflections, and quiet observation. Lamps are extinguished, the final stories told, and prayers offered for protection, health, and fortune. Children settle close to parents or siblings, their minds processing the day's lessons, games, and observations in gentle dreams that often replay experiences and stories from the day. Adults reflect on the accomplishments and challenges of labor, trade, and civic engagement, their thoughts blending practical concerns with philosophical musings and reflections on human and divine interaction. Even in darkness, life is layered, continuous, and interconnected. The ordinary acts of preparation, conversation, observation, and reflection are inseparable from broader cultural, social, and spiritual patterns. Greek life, in this, reveals its subtle brilliance. A civilization built not only on heroic deeds, grand architecture, or myth, but on the interwoven, flowing, and continuous rhythms of daily existence. Ordinary moments are extraordinary, not through spectacle, but through their unbroken connection, their attention to detail, and their ability to combine utility, beauty, and meaning. Night fully envelopes the city and countryside, yet life persists quietly, in the subtle motions of breath, thought, and reflection. Each household, each street, each field continues its own gentle current, preparing all for the eventual return of dawn. And in this continuity, one perceives the essence of Greek civilization. A flowing, unbroken narrative in which labor, leisure, play, reflection, and worship coexist, forming a living mosaic of human experience that endures across time, season, and generation.